From Liquid Studio Group, it's Three Men and a Mic with your host, Joe Barron, Gene Belmontes, and the Honorable Javier Montemayor, our closer. Three minds, one mic, zero filter. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. 3 Men and a Mic starts now.
And welcome back to Three Men and a Mic. This is our 10th episode. This week, our hot topic is, does God exist? And we've got some great guests that will be joining us to talk about that very, very hot topic, one that's been talked about for millennia. So we're hoping to have a really great discussion, hoping you all are joining us, hoping you had a great week so far, off to a good start. Couple things that happened in the last 2 weeks since our last show. What's the big one?
Spurs going to the finals starting Wednesday, tomorrow, in San Antonio. Spurs are going to take it. They're going to sweep the Knicks. Man.
I looked for tickets. Center court at San Antonio, $32,000 for one ticket.
Holy cow!
In New York, they're going for like 50.
But you got
Really?
the money, man.
No,
You could
but-
probably buy those.
Bueno,
Yeah.
bueno.
You and your
Go see the big
significant
elote. Go
Elote?
go
Oh,
see
what a
the
play.
big elote.
El codazo.
What a play. El codazo, that's right.
I mean, you gotta love the way the Spurs have embraced the culture, right? Of everything from the familia culture, with Pop and all the old stars coming back in playing, but also just the the loteria cards, the HEB, all of the stuff that goes on. You don't see that in the NBA anywhere else. At least I'm partial because the Spurs are so close to us, but I don't see it at New York.
You have mariachi singing the national anthem, before the game, and
Yeah.
I mean it's just they embrace the culture.
Absolutely.
So it's an exciting time. I think the other things that I've seen recently are the runoffs are over. We have a new county judge elect, Jerry Garza. I think we had the boil water notice that recently came out as well. So
Yeah.
those are the hot topics of the month for
Of the
me.
month so far.
So
Yeah, the water one's an interesting one because I was telling someone that from 2002 through 2015 there are no boil water notices that were issued. The rules have changed to some degree. TCEQ is harsher. I can recall one when I was on council in 2008 where we should have issued a boil water notice, but we argued with TCEQ that they were wrong in their approach to it. They fined us. We won that fine in an administrative appeal. And again, from 2000 to 2015, there are no boil water notices. And then all of a sudden, we're struck with a ton of them.
I think there's been what they said 8
Really?
in the last few years.
Now, and not to cast aspersions on the city, because these things happen everywhere. You know that there are 8 boil water notices issued every day in the state of Texas. 8. So that's 3,000 or so in the entire year that get issued out throughout the state. And something as small as that backflow preventer could cause it. But then there's also the bigger issues where you have those larger line breaks, or the tanks lose complete pressure, or you do find other high contaminants in there. But the city has suffered, these last 8 have been just horrendous because they're shutting down entire sections of the city or the entire city for one house that tested bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's interesting. No, it's
Yeah.
interesting, and I think the social media goes wild on boil water notices, and they're hammering the city.
You go to HEB and everyone's walking out
Take
with
the toilet
with
paper,
all
man.
the water and toilet paper. All of a sudden,
I don't get the toilet paper one though.
And I was going to say, I still to this day cannot understand during the COVID era, during the pandemic, now why toilet paper? What is the issue with the toilet paper? Somebody could please just enlighten me about that.
It's got to be something. There's got to be something to it. I don't know
that.
what it is, but it's got to be something to it.
So,
But yeah, so those are the big issues that we've had. Let's see what else has happened in the last couple of weeks here locally.
we've got Talarico going against Paxton.
Paxton,
That's right.
that's going to be an
That's-
interesting
that's
race.
gonna be a really good
Yeah,
race.
watching.
Tallarico is leading in all the polls in the state of Texas, at least the ones I've seen.
And he's raising good money.
And he's raising good money. He's got a
That's
good
state
message.
money, yeah. It's, you
Yeah,
know, it's all that dirty money coming from out of state, you
Yeah.
know, that kind of stuff.
I'm optimistic, you know. It may go blue. Or
It may go blue, man.
It may go blue.
Get ready for that wave, G.
You know, I told you, remember back in March, we were talking about this in March, and I said, you know, again, taking off my Republican hat, taking off my political hat, and just putting on a statistician's hat and looking at the numbers. There were 2.1 million votes cast in that primary for the Senate race in the Democrat side.
Okay.
And there were 2 million in the Republican side. For the first time ever, the number of people voting in the Democrat primary surpassed the number of people voting in the Republican primary. 2 years ago, when Cruz was going up against Colin Allred, it was 2.1, 2.2 on the Republican side, and they didn't break 1 million on the Democrat side. So something has shifted, something has happened in the state of Texas in the last 2 years that drew out voters in the primary for the Democrats. And so if you look at it from that perspective, yeah, does Tallarico have a chance? Sure.
I don't think
Possible.
You have to
You
look
know
too
what
far.
happened.
And I think, you know, you look at the gas prices, you look at the economy, a lot of the message that our national representatives or our president ran on, you know, seem to be in question. And I think that has shifted a lot of the support that the Republicans had over
plus
to the
the
Democrats.
decision that's just I mean locally having closed schools, you know, the lack of funding coming into the districts, you know.
Well, but it's
Uh,
not only the lack of
No,
funding.
no,
We've talked
it's
about all
not,
the
but
other
it's what it's
issues.
affecting the people. It's,
Oh,
it's what's
absolutely.
people
I
losing
think-
jobs, you know, kids
Sure.
being not misplaced, but placed in other places that they're not,
Well,
you know. So
but
all
the-
of that's coming into
The
that.
district has a really good mechanism for tracking where they've gone. They know a lot of them have gone to back to Mexico. Some have gone into private schools, homeschool, charter schools,
schools,
all these things
further
have
north,
affected
yeah.
further north.
Yeah.
So
The state of Texas has lost between 75 to 78,000 students across the state of Texas. And yeah, you know, it's
and they're anticipating another 120.
yeah.
Is that what they're saying in the
Yeah.
demographers?
Our own commissioner of education has come out and pretty much given the numbers and sounded the alarm. You know?
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting political season. You know, November's coming around. Gina Hinojosa is running strong, giving the governor a good raise, Governor Abbott. So
I love the fact that
Yeah,
you guys are so enthused about the Democrat Party. It gives
I'm
me
enthused that there's competition.
gives me hope that you guys are going to make it competitive. Exactly right. That's the angle I was taking. Gives me hope that you guys think it's going to be competitive. But, and let's
you
see.
know,
And like I said, from a statistician's
nothing-
perspective, yeah, it looks like it could be very competitive
It'll be
this time.
close.
Could be very close this time around. I mean,
shall see. We shall see.
there's a lot of time between now and November for things to happen.
Let's see what other.
Let's see
things
what
come
trouble.
down.
Let's see what trouble these people can get into to kill the
Yeah.
campaign.
If local politics is any indicator, there's a lot of trouble that you can get into
Every day.
Yes.
every day while you're on the campaign trail, especially when it comes to beverages of adult nature. So we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors and come right back and jump right into the hot topic. Does God exist? Is there a God?
He does.
I say he does.
Life is full of great moments, special moments, shared with friends, family, and loved ones. But for some, pain deprives us from fully enjoying these moments. If chronic pain is keeping you from fully enjoying life, there is hope. Hi, I'm Dr. Marta Martinez. At Advanced Spine Pain Solutions, we're dedicated to treating our patients with the most advanced and compassionate care possible. Visit us for an evaluation and let our experienced staff help you get back to living a pain-free life.
We have a 9-acre facility, 200,000 square feet of indoor storage, as well as about 4 to 5 acres of outdoor storage. Pricing is subject to change based on your selection of either indoor or outdoor availability.
Life is full of great moments, special moments, shared with friends, family, and loved ones. But for some, pain deprives us from fully enjoying these moments. If chronic pain is keeping you from fully enjoying life, there is hope. Hi, I'm Dr. Marta Martinez. At Advanced Spine Pain Solutions, we're dedicated to treating our patients with the most advanced and compassionate care possible. Visit us for an evaluation and let our experienced staff help you get back to living a pain-free life.
Welcome back to 3 Minute Mike, your host, Joe Barron. I'm Edward, myself, Gene Belmontes, with our two guests, David Almaraz, attorney at law, former assistant district attorney, former USA attorney, great individual who's joined us a couple podcasts ago for the discussion on immigration, but he missed the one on the aliens.
Corruption.
Oh, corruption, public corruption. That's right,
Public
public corruption. Right. But he missed the one on aliens, which would have been a good discussion to have with David.
We're talking extraterrestrial.
Extraterrestrials,
Not
yes,
the other
not the
kind.
other aliens.
You know
That's
so many.
exactly right.
We're not talking about Wimby, right?
And our good friend Carlos Flores, who's also an attorney, but he's also a filmmaker who's got a film coming out. It's already debuted, right? Paz y Bien, which is a story about the is it the monastery or seminary that's in Heberville?
Yeah, it was an old seminary that is where some friars from Mexico came to.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, great. Glad to have you guys aboard for this discussion on whether God exists. Javi, what's your take on this?
So, yes, I believe God does exist. My faith is strong, has always been strong, and it's been handed down over. It's a familial thing for me. I don't have to see it, touch it, or feel it. It's not scientific. It's nothing but faith. But the question has always been, how do you know? If you can't see, if you can't feel it, if you can't touch it, how do you know?
Yeah.
David, what is your take on this?
Well, for the last 40 or 50 years, I've been very interested in comparative religion and mythology, and came to find out that all religions, I guess, copied the ones before them, starting with the Sumerians about 7,000 years ago, who had great gods. And then after that came, of course, the Egyptians about 5,000 years ago. They had some great gods too. So we're talking about people have always had a need for gods. And the gods of the old days, Greeks, etc., they were the fun gods. You had Dionysius, that was the god of wine.
Zeus.
Yeah. And so again, where do we get today's religion and beliefs? We get them from them. The concept of the soul, the Hindus, the concept of life after death, or what happens after you die, the Egyptians. So that the three great religions, as they call them, were the survivors. They are the ones that billions of people in the world believe in. And that would be the Judaism, Christianity, and Muslims. So when you say, Gene, do you believe in God? Which God? And let's define God, because everybody has different concepts of who or what God is. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, gods were women, the goddesses. And that's when they first started. It makes sense. Women provided, they gave birth. So people worshipped goddesses until Judaism came around. They said, no. Men are the ones. That's when God, the ones we're talking about here, became a man. And he is a man, our Father who art in heaven. So that's what I believe.
Belief in higher power.
Joe,
I absolutely exist.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And is it like David said, which God?
Allah,
Is it the God of Abraham, God of Moses, and
Jesus
Isaac,
Christ,
David?
and God.
Is it Allah? Is it Shiva? Is it, well,
It, it's
Chime
to
in,
me
Carlos, chime in.
it's you know, our Lord Jesus Christ, right? There has to be one to start supreme, right? But from there everybody comes, like Zeus, right?
Yeah.
He had, you know, his right, like who he came from, right? So there
Mount
was,
Olympus.
you know,
and he
so-
was married.
so there was all
Jealous
there's,
wife.
there's the supreme being, right? So I believe in God, but at the same time, like we've been talking, right? If you believe in the good, you believe in the bad, right? So, you know, I believe it. I have my faith, and it's in God. It's not in my church.
right, not in the structure.
Not in the structure.
Right, and the structure meaning the concept of a church and,
Yeah.
and its people and its hierarchies and all those things. It's that relationship you have with God.
Yeah.
Carlos?
First of all, I don't think David answered the question. I think he punted. I definitely have no doubt that God exists. I think the place where we may differ is in the definition of God, and I think that at the outset, like, you have to concede the fact that no one person is going to be able to understand the totality of existence, right? So, like, we go to the Bible, and it talks about God. It tries to define God as the Alpha and the Omega, right? It's the God of the Old Testament. And so if you think about that for a second, it's the Alpha and the Omega, and then you consider the fact that as human beings, we are like so limited just in our day-to-day life of like knowing existence, right? Like, for example, I've lived in Laredo like almost my whole life. I'm 50 years old. I was born in 1975, born here. I probably know 10% of the city of Laredo. You know, I don't know the neighbor who lives on, you know, this street and this part of town and what their story is, or I didn't grow up with you guys. I don't know your stories, right? You don't know my stories. So when you take that idea and understand how little of the world we know, and that doesn't even go into the like the deeper concepts of like the fact that at a subatomic level, you know, there is so much we don't know about ourselves. There's so much we don't know about the world that we live in. Our ability to perceive colors, right? Some animals perceive certain colors that we can't perceive. We perceive colors that others can perceive. So when you concede that point, that we are so limited in our knowledge, then there's no way that anybody can define the Alpha and the Omega, right? And that's God, right? And so like the metaphor that I use to understand my concept of God is simply this. It's like all of existence and all that doesn't exist but could exist, and all that could exist but doesn't exist, and or things that don't exist that could never exist, all of that is the totality of the Alpha and the Omega, right? And all of that is kind of like an ocean. If you could take all of it and put it into like the concept of water, that's like the ocean. And each one of us individually is like a drop in that ocean with our very limited perspective. So I guess to answer your question, God is my experience in the world, because then we come into the story of Christ, which is the story of, I guess, God becoming man, right?
That's correct.
And Catholics, which I am a Catholic, often like to focus on the aspect of the story of Christ as the resurrection. But I think the more telling part of the story of Christ is in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before he is crucified. What does he do in the Garden of Gethsemane? He's full of fear. He's full of anxiety. He surrenders to God. He asks God to guide him, to help him go through this, right?
Let this cup pass.
Let this cup pass, but only if it's your will, right? And so that is quintessentially the human experience, right? All of us are in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? We are living through life, and all the things that we can't control, all the things that are uncertain to us, that is the realm of God. That is the part of the Alpha and the Omega that we can't understand. Why does this person die? Why do good people get sick and bad people live forever? Why didn't this work out for me? Why didn't that work out for me, right? And so to me, like, there's no question that there's God. The issue is that we're all right about what our experience and our description of God is, but we're also all incomplete.
So then David, how do you reconcile that? I mean,
Well, let me catch the ball that he punted.
Yeah.
I'll run down the field with you.
Okay, thank you.
The Alpha and Omega, that's a concept from way before Jesus Christ. Okay?
Right. Old
Mithras.
Yeah.
I have a book in my library called The World's 16 Crucified Saviors.
Hmm.
So, the story of the crucifixion, Quetzalcoatl was apparently crucified, died, and was reborn. So again, my point was that today's religion, we get it from the past religions, okay? So when you say there's no doubt in my mind that God exists, again, we have an answer, or you have an answer. Which God? Now the God of Spinoza, which he was excommunicated for back in the ancient Spanish days, he said God is nature. And that's what Einstein said. He didn't believe in a personal God that observes you all the time, 24/7, and punishes you if you don't do as he wishes. So again, yes, I mean, obviously all of us have. The problem here is where you're born determines your religion. People born in Laredo are probably Catholics. People born in India are probably Hindus. People born in Israel, mostly Jewish. So we're a product of our environment and the geography. So the most recent big religion would be the Muslims. Now that's the only one that we can assure ourselves that there was a historical person named Muhammad. And apparently an illiterate man who heard of an archangel tell him about the Quran, he wrote it down. That's why we have billions of Muslims right now. Now, the problem also arises when you say, which God? Do all three religions believe in the same God or not? Well, Allah means God, but their God is very different from the Catholic God and from the Baptist God. And that's why we've had millions and millions of people killed in the name of religion. Because it's like, who is God? And, well, this is my God, and he's telling me what to do and how to live my life. And that's great. I believe in freedom of religion. That's Amendment 1. But on the other hand, when I say, I believe in this, and you need to believe in it, and you need to believe,
Right.
and if you don't, you're going to have problems. That is where we have problems. The main problem we have today is religious fanatics, Christian nationalists, trying to say, my God is going to control all of you all, and we're going to make laws. Laws.
In accordance with
But David,
According to that.
even the Quran, even Muhammad
Yes.
mentions Jesus Christ, and there's a case to be made for Jesus Christ, not only as a deity, but a historical figure. The Romans kept meticulous records of his crucifixion. So did the Jews of the time. So he's very much, if not more, historical figure than Muhammad ever was.
I will slightly disagree with you. There is very little historical evidence of Jesus, only what's in the Bible. There is historical evidence of Muhammad. There is little historical evidence about anyone in the Bible, including Moses. These were all Abraham. People said, no, thousands of years ago, Abraham was our father of all the religions. But again, what happened to the millions of people that believed zealously in Zeus
But
and in Osiris?
I think we're mixing ideas. I think
Okay, cool.
I think the question is, does God exist? I think you're speaking more to, does this God exist versus that God exist? And I think that, like, I think your question is just, does God exist, right? And to me, like, I mean, you're right in everything you're saying, David. I mean, you know, there is inconsistencies, there is different points of view, there is where you live determines oftentimes what you believe and what you think. Yeah, like I completely agree with all of that point. I think that's actually my point. My point is that there is a totality of existence.
Right.
Right? There is a total. I mean, you cannot deny existence, right? We are in existence at the moment, right? And you know, there is people that existed before us. There's people that are going to exist after us. There are places that we can't even conceive of that are beyond our sphere of understanding. So existence is there, all right? And so what when I say that I believe in God, what I'm really saying is I believe in God because I believe in existence. Like if you can't, I don't think you can take the two apart from each other, right? God is existence, right? Now, whether one religion or another believes that, that's a different story. And I agree with you. Most religions are not going to agree with the totality of it. And let me just make this one last point. The Taoists have really a great concept of like this issue, this problem. They talk about this problem, except in Taoism they call it the Tao. Right. And they say the Tao that can be described is not the eternal Tao. Okay? It is the Tao of the 10,000 things. Because the Tao that is the complete Tao, it cannot be described. And the reason it cannot be described is for my original point, which is that we have the limited ability of perception, experience, life, all the things that he's talking about.
And that brings us to
let me follow up on that.
Before you do, just on your point about it being within us, one of our viewers, Joseph Campbell, Super Bar 30, says, all the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you.
Yeah, I agree.
And so that's kind of your point.
Yeah, I agree.
I was just going to bring up Joseph Campbell. I have a lot of his books. And somebody asked Mr. Campbell, who is one of my favorite mythologists. Joseph Campbell viewed God not as a literal historical being, but as a psychological and spiritual metaphor. So when they said, Campbell said, God is a metaphor for that which transcends all levels of intellectual thought.
Yeah.
And Mr. Campbell said, the problem becomes when people take what's in the Bible as literally. God created the world in 6 days. Well, we know that's not true. God created man out of mud. Well, we know that's not true. But people back then, thousands of years ago, when the Bible, all 66 books were put together, said that's the word of God. No, it was the word of many, many authors.
But I don't think that creates a problem. I don't think that creates a problem. I think that every person has the experience of their life. You know, so like for the father or the mother who has a child who's dying in a cancer center at MD Anderson, who goes to a chapel and gets on their knees and says, Jesus Christ, will you please help us through this experience? Will you please help my child get better? Will you help us deal with this? Because it's a metaphor, because it's historically inaccurate, because of all of the reasons why you say that it's like maybe not valid from a like literal standpoint, it doesn't matter. The experience of that person seeking that help, asking for something smarter than them, bigger than them, something that has more knowledge than them, has more consciousness than them, for guidance to go through this experience, is the whole basis of the relationship with the divine, right? And so like, you could be wrong about the metaphor, but be right about the relationship with the divine. It's not an either or.
So you have people that have never read a Bible,
Yeah.
that live in mountains, right, and never been in contact with a religion,
Yeah.
right, and they come down for whatever reason, and they're some of the people that have the most faith,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know. Having faith, does that mean or when you pray, right, or when you firmly believe in something? I know some people that have struggled all of their life, but I have the most deepest faith in it. You know, God's gonna get me through this. God was there for me. God this. God, you know. So, faith, God, religion, like you're praying to a God, or you're praying for something.
Right.
Right. I mean, the higher being.
But
there's something there.
But you don't even need to have faith.
Yeah.
Because faith, when I hear the word faith, what I hear is, I don't know for sure. And David, I love you. I'm not attacking you. But when you have faith, what you're doing is you're responding to David. David's skepticism, right? His position is skeptical, right? So you're like, well, David, you got me trapped. Okay, but I have faith, right? Like, I don't know, but I believe, right? But you don't even have to have that faith. That is a false dichotomy between what he's saying and what others are saying. Really, all you need to understand is that we all can concede that there are things about the world in which we live that we don't understand. Absolutely. Something understands them because they exist. The thing that made them exist, the thing that understands them, that is what we call God. That is the realm of God. That is the realm of the divine. That which is beyond our ability to understand and comprehend. And so, and just this last point, Gene, and so that I don't need to have faith to believe in God. I know that there's something I don't understand in the world, and that's what I turn to God and say, hey, you understand this, I don't. Guide me in this world. Guide me in that space.
So how do you respond, in the case of someone like David, who's agnostic, or others who aren't sure? They know there's something out there, but not sure what it is, don't know where it started, where it came from. They're questioning all these things,
or they question the science. If you
or they
can't
question
prove
the
it,
science,
then
right?
it doesn't
That's
exist.
another proof. The burden of proof, right, is another argument that a lot of agnostics make. Well, I mean, there's not enough proof. There's not enough empirical evidence to show that Christ existed, or Muhammad, or the others, right? And so they go through this questioning. At what point did they arrive that there's something out there, right? I left the Catholic Church for a while and wandered through all the Protestant churches, even went to temple for a while, and became an agnostic at some point before coming home to the Catholic Church. And it was a faith-based experience that led me there.
Okay.
And
Now,
it took
you
somebody-
mentioned suffering. Somebody, please save my child that has cancer. Well, we saw a lot of miracles in the Old Testament. We saw God, Yahweh, save the Egyptians, or save the Hebrews, and part the waters. Where was he during the Holocaust? How did he allow 6 million of his people, his chosen people, to die?
I'm so glad you asked that question. That's a great question.
Could I have a
'Cause
great
that-
answer?
Yeah, because that's
By all
complex,
means.
right? That's
That is a
complex. Yeah.
complex answer.
I'm going to liken it to another tragedy, and then I'll come back to your answer. If you live in this world, there is suffering. No question, there is suffering.
Buddhism.
There is
tells you
suffering.
that.
There's suffering in this world. There are people with very low levels of consciousness. You and I have been lawyers for many years. You several more than me, but we both have gone into that courtroom, and we see people that have done atrocious things. People that do things that make no sense at all. But the reason that they do that is because they have a low level of consciousness. They have a low level of awareness. Okay, and so just because a human being or a group of people or a group of experiences of individuals together have a low level of consciousness doesn't negate the existence of God. All it does is it reaffirms the fact that we live in a complex world that we don't understand. And so I'll give you this example. People who live along the coastlines and there's a tsunami and they're killed because of those waters. Well, it's because that is the nature of the planet. People who die of cancer, that is the nature of existence. Suffering is part of the nature of existence. We can sit here and we can say, what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust is deplorable. It is unacceptable. If any one of us went through that experience, we would have the right to be angry at God, right? But then we also recognize that from that suffering comes great lessons. And actually, that's what my movie's about, Paz y Bien. Paz y Bien is a movie about these Franciscan friars who had to flee the Cristero War in 1926, where Catholics were being persecuted for their religion, for the beliefs, right? Yeah. And so these gentlemen arrive in Hebronville, Texas, and they have been there for over 100 years now, right? Not the same guys that showed up, but the same line, right, of people, right? And it's like, what is this about? Right? And so Father Juan Jose Ibarra, who wrote this book about them that is the movie's based on, he makes a very important point in the documentary. He says, if it had not been for this tragedy, this Cristero War, which is a tragedy, these people would have never come to Hebronville. The hope that these people gave to that community, the things that community, like growing up and going to the Little Flower School, okay, those things wouldn't have happened had that Civil War not occurred. So you can sit there and you can say, it is absolutely terrible that these people died. It is terrible that these people were persecuted. No question. In the same way that it's terrible that a child is dying of cancer in MD Anderson right now. Okay, that's occurring right now.
Sure.
Okay,
it is.
But from that tragedy comes healing, comes understanding, comes the human experience of knowing better. And that again is the realm of God.
God's plan.
You
God's
mentioned
will.
Buddhism. Well, suffering.
Yeah.
Buddhism. That's always, and it's not a religion.
Yeah.
Buddhism is a philosophy.
Yeah.
And we know that person existed, the
Yeah.
Gautama Buddha.
Yeah.
He said it's very simple, and the Dalai Lama says, I don't need any complicated religion. I don't need temples. He says, my philosophy is kindness and compassion.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Treat people with kindness and compassion,
Yeah.
with no threats of
Yeah.
everlasting fire and hell.
Yeah.
And you better be good or you're going to go and burn in hell, that sort of thing.
It's a good point. We're gonna take a break right now at this point here, and then come back to it. This has been a phenomenal discussion so far. So we'll be right back with 3 Men and a Mic. Our two guests, Carlos Flores, David Almaraz.
Sorry, David, I love you.
I do too.
Life is full of great moments, special moments, shared with friends, family, and loved ones. But for some, pain deprives us from fully enjoying these moments. If chronic pain is keeping you from fully enjoying life, there is hope. Hi, I'm Dr. Marta Martinez. At Advanced Spine Pain Solutions, we're dedicated to treating our patients with the most advanced and compassionate care possible. Visit us for an evaluation and let our experienced staff help you get back to living a pain-free life.
We have a 9-acre facility, 200,000 square feet of indoor storage, as well as about 4 to 5 acres of outdoor storage. Pricing is subject to change based on your selection of either indoor or outdoor availability.
Life is full of great moments, special moments, shared with friends, family, and loved ones. But for some, pain deprives us from fully enjoying these moments. If chronic pain is keeping you from fully enjoying life, there is hope. Hi, I'm Dr. Marta Martinez. At Advanced Spine Pain Solutions, we're dedicated to treating our patients with the most advanced and compassionate care possible. Visit us for an evaluation and let our experienced staff help you get back to living a pain-free life.
Back, 3 Men and a Mic. Your host, our two wonderful guests, David Almaraz and Carlos Flores Jr., attorneys at law, each of them with a different experience, and talking about this particular subject of ours, does God exist? And so, David, you were making some interesting points right as we were going into the break. So you want to pick up there?
Well, which was the last thing I was talking about was before we came on was
Buddha, right?
the Buddha. The Buddha, we do know there was a historical figure that now they call the Buddha, about 500 years before Christ was born. And he went off on his own, and his philosophy was all life is suffering, like you were saying. The reason people suffer is we attach ourselves to material things. When they take it away, we suffer more. And so what can you do to prevent that? Well, get rid of your possessions. Jesus Christ said, you want to be my follower? Sell everything you have and give it to the poor. We don't see that here in Laredo too much. You know, it's like people that are wealthy want to become wealthier. In Washington, let's get the billionaires. And yet they call themselves Christians. They don't care about the suffering of their fellow human beings, the poor, the destitute, the hungry, the mothers that have no insurance. Hey, that's your problem, you know. But I'm following my Jesus, and so that's the problem. Is when you make your belief and your religion. I have actually had friends of mine that used to be friends say, "David, you're having a lot of problems down in the down on the border." I said, "Like what?" "Well, all this immigration." I said, "We've always had people coming across looking for food, looking for work, and not one, but both of them at different stages in my life. They said, yeah, you can take care of that. How? You put up turrets every 50 yards with machine guns, and you shoot them as they come across. I said, what happened to Jesus' welcome the stranger, welcome the foreigner? Oh, you're taking that out of context. But that's where the hatred begins. The other.
Well, so may I respond?
Well, and
Okay.
the only comment I was going to make, David, is that really government's role? Or am I my brother's keeper? We had that
Yeah,
conversation
we've had
before.
that conversation before.
You know, people walk into elected office with their personal beliefs, and sometimes they try to create laws in an effort to maybe put those beliefs on others. But at the end of the day, at least for me as a Catholic, taking care of the immigrants as Joe does when they come over at Holding Institute, taking care of brothers, sisters, neighbors, friends through our Catholic faith, our church has done a lot of that. I believe a lot of what government has stepped in and is now doing is the role of the individual to be able to care for the elderly, to care for our neighbors. And unfortunately, like you
Socialism.
said, yeah, it's become, well, not necessarily socialism, but those of us that can should help those that can't, versus putting us all on the same playing field and nobody does anything. I'm going to say those that can should help. But you're right, a lot of people don't. They have those views, like you said, they put out a gun turret or put buoys or walls, whatever it is that people may want to do. But again, I subscribe to this issue that we as Christians should not allow government to do all things, because the government that can give you everything can take everything from you.
So I think I also think you're mixing discourses, right? Because,
Sure, of course. No, I was,
because this is really, the question of God is not really a question of like politics.
Correct.
I think that at the fundamental level of human existence is our thinking, right? It's our processing of information. It's our conclusions that we draw, right? And oftentimes those thinking processes are a direct result of who we grew up around, what we were told, whether we were abused or not abused, whether we had our needs met or not had our needs met. And so then like we all, as a consequence, go through life with a series of wounds and a series of strengths, and they're kind of mixed in there. And we make decisions based on those things, right? And so I think that like that is still part of this issue of God, because underlying all of those thoughts is something that is observing those thoughts, is observing that experience, and your thoughts and your feelings mix to make you believe that you're experiencing reality. How many times have any one of you thought someone was angry at you, thought something was going to end up a certain way, thought someone thought something, and then later you find out I was completely wrong, right? Okay, well, that is very important, because that experience of being wrong is the insight to the divine, right? Because it's saying and recognizing, hey, I have an inability to perceive reality. And that inability to perceive reality could be a problem. And there are people who are so tied to that feeling of emotion that they have, that then they take the need to belong to something like a religion, like a political party, like a point of view, and they create pain in the world, right? And so in my understanding of God, right, is the first point is to concede the concession that my point of view is what is the obstacle to perceiving the Alpha and the Omega, to perceiving that is much larger and bigger than who I am. And religion attempts to do that. Imperfectly, but it attempts to do that. That is what, and just bringing it back to Christ for a minute, right? Like, that is essentially Christ's message, right? He says to the Roman who doesn't want to kill him, the Roman doesn't want to kill him, Pontius Pilate doesn't want to kill him, right? He's like, let me go talk to the Jews again. Are you guys sure? Yeah, we're sure.
Wash my hands.
Yeah, I don't want to do this, right? And what does Christ tell him at that moment? He says, all the power that you have comes through God, which God, let's take that out, not Yahweh, not Muhammad, not any of those other ones. It's the Alpha and the Omega. It is that higher intelligence, that higher being that knows everything. That's what he means. Now, he may not literally mean, well, I think Christ means that. I think Christ actually means that. what the priest at church on Sunday says it means, that's a completely different story, right? And so I just would say to these guys that I have no doubt that God exists because we exist. And to talk about God is a very personal experience, and it's an incomplete experience. And I think that David's premise is correct. Which God are you talking about? Why is any of them invalid? They're not absolute, but are they invalid? I don't think so.
The problem that I've always seen is that every great nation that says this is our God and God is on our side, every war, every soldier that goes out thinks that God is on their side. The Germans, the Nazis, on their belt buckles said, God was with me. So when you pray before a war, what is God supposed to do? And who is he supposed to? And the problem then becomes, let's take Spain and Portugal, nice Catholic countries that said, let's invade and take over the world. They got to South America, they got to North America. What did they do? They decimated the Indians here and in Mexico and all over South in the name of God. They took along their Franciscan fathers. They'd bless a village before they would destroy it.
But those very same Spaniards today are the loudest voice in Europe against the policies of President Trump's administration.
Well, what happened 500 years ago?
But hold on. You have to go through that experience to learn from it.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. That's the human experience.
So 6 million people, Jews, had to die, so we could learn something from that?
But was that God, or was that somebody, that's a person of free will, who did that?
Well, they're saying,
It's both.
I know what
It's
God
both.
wants.
It's
I know
both.
God's mind.
It's
And that's
both.
where the danger begins.
It's
when you
both.
try to say, I'm speaking on
both.
behalf of God.
It's both. Well,
And we're seeing
Where
that
does
now
evil
more than
play
ever.
Of course.
More than ever.
Of course.
evil. Okay, so evil, I think, is just a lower level of consciousness. It's like if you could imagine me having the ability to not listen to any of my thoughts and just allow myself to experience the present moment, which is the only moment in which God actually exists, right? Is like here right now. We're in the I believe we're in the presence of God. Like right here, right now, we're in the presence of God, right? Some people are the exact opposite of that spectrum, right? They believe so much that they know and they understand and they're right and they're justified and they're complete, and that's where fear-driven thinking leads to atrocities.
Yeah.
People who are fearful and angry, which is another form of fear, which is what is a lack of surrender to something greater than yourself, such as God.
9/11,
Yeah.
the bombing of the Twin Towers.
Right? Anybody willing to kill themselves and kill thousands of people in the name of Allah.
Allah.
And so, well, it was just a few demented individuals. But that's how they were raised. Like I said, where you're born determines your God. Where you're born determines how you treat women. Because women aren't treated very well in the Bible. People used the Bible to defend slavery. Because it says, treat your slaves well.
Yeah.
And if you kill one, well, we'll pay the owner.
Yeah, I'm not saying God's in the Bible. I'm not saying God's in the Bible.
Well, women were not allowed to vote until 1920. They were not allowed to get credit on their own until 1970. Because women have always been held down because of the Bible. And, well, God tells me, how do you know God says that? Because the Bible says it. Well, who wrote the Bible if it wasn't men, who most of them were illiterate or not very smart? Because the Bible first was in Greek. Now, those were educated men. But the problem is most religion doesn't like education. They don't like educated people. They don't like doubters. They don't like people saying, why? Why do you, how is that possible? Say, just listen to us. And again, Mr. Campbell was asked, was Christ the Son of God? He says, unless you can say that I am and all of us are.
Yeah.
All of us.
Right. I agree with that.
And Jesus and
Jesus
maybe
said
even the
that.
Buddha says, if you want to believe in God, He's within all of us.
Yeah,
He's
that's
not
right.
out there in some celestial
He's there too.
dictatorship.
He's there too. So like going back to your point, David, like you're right. There's been a tremendous amount of oppression in the Catholic religion throughout history. No question
All
about
religions.
it. Yeah, in all religions. But I'm just going to talk about the Catholic religion right now.
Okay.
But if you don't have that oppression, then you don't have someone like Spinoza. You don't have someone like St. Francis who look at it and are critical of it and say there's a different relationship from God than the one that you're espousing, and enlighten people and spark art, spark literature, spark so many movements in the world for peace. You know, on the one hand, the Catholic Church was behind, you know, the conquest of the Americas
And the Inquisition.
and the Inquisition. And at the same time, that same religion was behind helping campesinos in Central America during the policies of the Reagan administration that were funding the Contras and using paramilitary troops to destroy people's lives. So
That was mainly the
Same church that was
CIA.
building the universities
Yeah.
throughout Europe. And
it's welcome to the existence of humans. It's ugly, it's complex, it's incomplete, but just because of that doesn't negate the existence of God.
And people don't realize that us right now as a civilization, 5,000 years ago, they were just as smart as we are. But
Smarter.
But again, they built the pyramids, you know, the tremendous structures. But people don't realize that. People have been the same
Aliens.
mentally
How do you
for at
think-
least the last 10,000 years.
I'll say that. How do you think there were aliens
I think
that
they were
built the
aliens that built
pyramid?
Not the ones in
Legal or
Mexico.
illegal?
No, not the Mexican. Not the.
And on that,
That
note-
was human ingenuity. And, you know,
God.
there
I
is
think
no
it
such
was-
thing as
I think it was a
extraterrestrial
higher-
aliens that
I
come
think
from
human ingenuity
10
comes
million
from God.
light years away. It doesn't.
Yeah, and that's my belief that human ingenuity comes from God.
Yeah, I agree.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break, come back and cover our last segment called The Last Bite. And that's one of our favorite segments. Everybody who's seen the show knows The Last Bite gets pretty entertaining. But we'll be right back. And Carlos, why don't you tell us a little bit about your film before we get into The Last Bite? And David, tell us what you're working on. So when we come right back, we'll come back to our two guests, and then we'll talk about The Last Bite.
Thank you.
Life is full of great moments, special moments, shared with friends, family, and loved ones. But for some, pain deprives us from fully enjoying these moments. If chronic pain is keeping you from fully enjoying life, there is hope. Hi, I'm Dr. Marta Martinez. At Advanced Spine Pain Solutions, we're dedicated to treating our patients with the most advanced and compassionate care possible. Visit us for an evaluation and let our experienced staff help you get back to living a pain-free life.
We have a 9-acre facility, 200,000 square feet of indoor storage, as well as about 4 to 5 acres of outdoor storage. Pricing is subject to change based on your selection of either indoor or outdoor availability.
We're back to 3 Minute Mike with our host Joe Barron, Javier Montemayor, myself, Jim Belmares, and our two guests, David Almaraz, attorney at law, and Carlos Flores Jr., attorney at law and filmmaker. Carlos, tell us about your film. You've got a film that's out there. This is not your first, as I'm learning, and I always want to kind of pick the brain of a filmmaker since this is kind of our world here where we do podcasts, live streams, and also we do commercials and things of that nature. So tell us about the show.
So, in 2020, I started making short documentaries. I compete in the short documentary category, which is under 45 minutes. And The first film I made was called The Southern Front, which is a story about the community going up against the border wall here in Laredo. Then I made a movie called The Cross, which is the story of when we were all teenagers and we used to go to Nuevo Laredo and kind of what that time was
That
like.
experience was like, yep.
And so right now the movie I just finished is titled Paz y Bien. And we had a private screening last week, and it's a story that's based on a book written by Father Juan Jose Ibarra, who is a Franciscan friar who is living in Hebbronville and runs the church there, Our Lady of Guadalupe. And basically, the documentary chronicles the story of these friars who fled the Cristero War in 1926 and arrived, by the grace of God, to Hebbronville, Texas, okay, and have remained in that community for 100 years, and because of them, that community has had a very vibrant spiritual, religious life because of these friars. And so Father Juan Jose wrote a book about that, and so part of the work that I'm doing as a filmmaker is acknowledging and recognizing that here, those of us that live on the border and those of us that are here in South Texas, we have a lot of very diverse, interesting stories. And so I'm making films about that. In fact, right now I'm working on a new movie called Rocha, which is a film about an artist here locally named Gil Rocha. And the story follows his an installation that he's doing downtown called Casa de Cambios that will be available in July for everyone to go see. And it's a story that chronicles the art movement that's going on here in Laredo. So aside from doing litigation, I also make films. And I also teach at the university.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
On that note, I asked Carlos if he would go talk to that father because I have a friend of mine that still lives there, Idalia Garcia, who's been there. She runs the Jim Hogg Historical. And I actually went to the Little Flower School, the Catholic school. People may not realize that, but my first 3 years of education was with the nuns
school
with a little white deal. And
You went to Catholic school?
No wonder he's so skeptical.
who would beat you on the hand.
That's why he's skeptical.
You're just mad at them done.
I love them.
It's just a wound.
I loved them. They were beautiful, some of them. But a lot of them left. They said, no, I'm going to go get married. Usually to a priest. But that church that he filmed about, I first started going there, and it was the Franciscan fathers with the little rope, and they're still there.
Yeah, they're still there.
And I was about 4 or 5, and the head monk came to see us. So everybody got around him like if he was Jesus. So I got real close to him and I hung onto his rope, and it broke. So I knew I was going to go to hell at that point. I just knew it.
Not so.
But it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's a beautiful film. He did a beautiful job.
Thank you.
But on the note that we started, I believe that, and faith is great. You've got to have faith, but faith in yourself and what you can do as an individual is also very, very important. But faith in a spiritual father that maybe does or doesn't exist, it's called faith without evidence. One of my favorite authors is Isaac Asimov, and he's written many, many books. And one of my favorite quotes by Mr. Asimov is this: I believe in observation, measurement, and reasoning, confirmed by independent observers. I'll believe anything, no matter how wild and ridiculous, if there is evidence for it. The wilder and more ridiculous something is, however, the firmer and more solid the evidence will have to be. So that's all it is. It's great to have, and that's why we have the First Amendment. The freedom of religion, the freedom from religion, the freedom to believe, the freedom not to believe. Because anybody can tell you, if you tell people that you're not a believer, you're not going to get elected to anything. But if you go in front of a church in Washington with a Bible in your hand that you've probably never read, they're going to vote for you.
Potentially.
So that's the problem.
Potentially.
You can sell them too.
Well, you sell them with your autograph. So again, it's just a question of, I believe one of these days, I'll ask them when they bury me to put on my tombstone, question authority. That's been my motto forever, and it still is.
Well, we have one more question for
All
you,
right.
David. And
All right.
the question for both of y'all is, where is the best place to get a steak in Laredo, Texas?
Yeah.
That's the last bite.
It's been diminishing and diminishing over the years.
And it's probably going to get even worse with the screw room deal. that
I
we've
would
got
say
coming.
I would say the tack room.
The tack room
Yeah,
sounds-
good.
yeah. They have that Argentinian
Uh-huh.
steak. Yeah.
The tack room is very good. On a good day, the Longhorn Steakhouse
Yeah,
has some
really?
very,
Yeah,
very good
Longhorn?
steaks.
I've been there a few times.
Flo's filet was good,
Yeah.
good.
I went to Palenque Grill
Okay.
on Sunday,
Okay.
and I had a ribeye steak there.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the best steaks I've had in a long time.
Palenque
I
Grill.
can't find good steaks anymore, you know.
No, good.
Border Foundry used to have steak.
Can't find
you
cabrito
know.
anywhere either.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure. First, Joe,
I'll agree with Carlos.
Thank you.
The tack room.
Tack room?
The tack room has some very
Yeah.
good steak.
Joe, I feel like you've agreed with me all night. I appreciate that.
No, that's one of my favorite steak places.
I got to tell you, you know, Casa Lopez, downtown hole in the wall. When they put out a steak, holy cow, that's been.
Wait a minute, is this where they have,
The flamenco.
Flamenco?
Yeah.
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 It's
I
still
love that
open.
they
place.
serve
They serve-
steaks?
they have
It's like the
steaks.
sangria.
Yeah,
place,
sangria. They've had steaks there. It's
Wow,
great.
I've got to try it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they get a little bit better about their hours and get more consistent because it's a great
Yeah,
place.
it's a great
And I love old buildings. I mean, there's something to be said about eating a steak in a building that has the exposed brick and it has a story to it. I mean, I've been to Smith and Walensky's and other places like that, and I still love a good old steakhouse.
Sure.
When you go to Charlie's, what do you have at Charlie's? Corona.
Well,
Man, I was just thinking about Charlie's Corona.
Yeah.
One of my
Chicken
favorite
fried- I haven't chicken
stories,
fried steak, though.
we were fortunate to be in Madrid, my wife and I, and we went to a place that she recommended, Los Sobrinos or something. It's supposed to be one of the oldest restaurants in existence, you know, that's been continuous, 300 years. So you go in there, and it's 3 or 4 levels. We went to the very bottom, there was this huge wine vat. And so I've also been interested in paranormal. So I told my wife, can you imagine
Why do you look at me? when you
hundreds
say
and
that?
hundreds of years, people would drink, and they'd go outside to the Plaza Mayor, I think, to watch people getting burnt to death. It was the Inquisition. And so as I was talking to my wife about it, I felt this tap on my shoulder, and I turned around and nobody there. I said, "Salud," and vámonos.
So did you have a steak there?
So you don't always need scientific proof to believe that.
I know what I felt. No, it wasn't scientific. Well, my old office, just like his old office, had a few spirits.
Yeah.
A few spirits in there.
What was your
God, what's
question?
Okay, we may be friends for life, or we may not be friends after this answer. Is there a better taco in Laredo than Tacos Ravi?
Yes, absolutely.
Where?
Oh, good Lord. Tacos El Pepe.
Oh, those are good. Those are good. I still,
I think Tacos Ravi is the best
I
taco in the
like
world.
Taco
Ravi's
Ravi.
just-
I like Taco Ravi,
Yeah.
but there's this place called
What about Kisi, no?
Tacos El Gordo.
Tacos Kisi is terrible.
Okay, all right. I haven't gone there long.
I hope they're not your sponsor.
No,
I'm not defaming
I
them.
have a-
I'm not
I own
defaming
the
them.
place.
It's just my opinion.
yeah, for me it's Tacos El Pepe. I mean, if you're going to commercialize a taco, the Taco Palenque, although, you don't take out a loan these days to go get a taco
Yeah.
at Taco Palenque, but
Well, I think I like Tacos Kisi because it's the informality. I think the carne asada is always very good there, and it's not too expensive. It's not an exorbitant amount of money you're going to spend. So
and
it-
Tacos Ravi, what makes
and
it
it's
so
fun.
great, guys?
Where is
Have
that?
you ever
Where's it
been there?
located? What's the
I have,
what's
yeah.
the address of that?
I've been at
Well, they
a
have
couple-
several. They have one on
down
Market
off
Street.
of Market Street.
¿Cuál es?
That's my friend David Fotis' house.
Tacos Ravi.
Ravi.
They have
Ravi.
one on
Shiloh.
Shiloh. They
Okay.
have one over here down on San Bernardo, closer to the Martin High School.
And I think
area.
there's one on
They-
Saunders.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there
I gotta
used to
check
be.
it out.
They have like the best tacos al pastor.
Yeah, they have a special.
Best barbecue in town, guys.
Oh, we went through that.
Briskets and
Which one?
beer. I
Yeah,
think, is
briskets
good.
and beer.
For me, it's Ringo's.
Ringo.
Allá por
Ringo's is
Chihuahua.
good too. Yeah.
Well,
I
Gene,
have, yeah.
Yeah.
Gene works with them.
Yeah, Ringo's, and because I
Which
get
one's
the-
that Gorilla place? The Gorilla place is
and
good.
so-
Here
but
on,
then we do
Gorilla?
chopped
What
brisket.
about-
Yeah, I love
Gorilla's
Gorilla's
good.
They also do
They
chopped
have some
brisket.
good. They have some good.
But
they have some
Ringo's
good
has
food.
done a really good job with all their stuff, and only because they are our client, and we have gone over there to shoot their food and then eat their food. It's like, oh my goodness.
They forced you.
I think
Well, it's just great stuff.
I like
And at
George
that point-
Gutierrez. I'll tell you what. I've known him since we were in elementary school, but I just think Ringo's is. I forget about it. because it's so far in by the Sac. You know, it's
But
just,
we'll drive to Seguin to the Burnt Bean, and
I will
we'll
go
drive
to King's Inn for
Blacks
some
or
good
whatever.
shrimp.
Can I tell y'all just I do have
more,
time
yeah.
for one last
Yeah, we got one more. Go ahead.
So my wife lives in Austin, and I always make her mad because we go there and like, yes, Austin has other options and there's like a variety of experiences that you can't have in Laredo, but like I've rarely gone to a restaurant in Austin where I thought, you know what, this is my place from now on. You know, whereas here, like Charlie's Corona, like if I want to go on a Friday night and eat some great food on a Friday night and listen to some great music, go to Charlie's Corona. You know, if I want a delicious tacos al pastor, Ravi. You know what I mean? If it's late night and we need to do a TP run, TP. You know, and I just feel like Austin doesn't have those like really. I'm sure people from Austin will be like, oh, you haven't been here, you haven't been there. Yes, I have. Yes, I
For some reason, I've
have.
heard they have a barbecue place where you wait in line for 3 hours.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they've got a couple of them.
See,
in
so
there.
I've
You
been
gotta
on-
have fancy socks too.
I've been on the search for more hometown cooking, home cooking
Sí, sí.
than the commercial places.
Yeah, oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Pero
I
what
go to
kind of
San
food?
Antonio.
Anything?
Well, yeah, Mexican food.
long as it's
you know,
delicious,
all-
yeah.
you know,
All right.
But more of the hole in the wall, local flavor.
I went to Tommy's
For the
other
truckers
day.
eat.
Tommy's
Yeah.
Tommy's has a few locations in San Antonio. It's a hole in the wall
Yeah.
kind of place, but they had barbacoa tacos. So they had barbacoa and dill pickle tacos. Yeah. So it was good.
My mouth is watering.
It's a
Wow.
delicious tacos. So
And what's Super Bar Kikas on the south side, Guisado.
guisado.
You
Well,
know
we
what?
have to try that.
I've never been there.
tried that.
I've never
I
been
love
there,
guisado.
Never been
Yeah,
there.
I'd like to. Guisado's good.
Guys, I love y'all's show.
thank you.
Can I please come back one day again?
Yeah, no,
or
no,
am
no.
I kicked off?
No,
for-
we've got.
You're blessed.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You
Thank
definitely
you.
David got a second shot.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I'll tell you guys, I'm really happy that y'all accepted our invitation. You know,
Glad
I've
you
known
invited
these-
us.
I've known these gentlemen for some time. I've seen them in court. I've been practicing for 30 years. You know, Mr. Almaraz, you've been there for a lot longer than I have. Carlos, you've been there. I've seen you in court litigating a lot of civil work. So excellent lawyers, and I'm really glad y'all showed up.
yeah,
sir. Thank you.
absolutely. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
you guys both made it. And David, thank you for coming back. I thought
Anytime.
we might have scared you
Anytime.
off the last time.
And put us together again.
Absolutely.
We're
It was
good too.
awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
we're good too.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So this is our show. The last bite is we started off with steaks, but we went all over the map there. But you know, such a weighty subject of God's existence deserved all the food on the plate there. So we'll come back soon. Have you guys both back on our next show, and hopefully you all are tuning in. We put these sound bites out throughout the week, and people come in, and all of a sudden our audience grows. So we're hoping to take some really good sound bites out of what was said
Right.
tonight,
Right.
and
Right.
get people back into the show. Congratulations on your show.
I've never seen
David.
Gene so quiet.
Yeah,
on one of
I
our
was
shows.
taking it all in. I'm one of those folks who just loves to listen. I mean, I've been in sales all my life, so as a salesperson, that's what we do. We listen, and we listen for pain points and areas where I might be able to provide you a solution. This is great. The discussion was so good that I want to read more about what you know, and I want a little more of your perspective because, again, as I'm learning it, I believe I'm a human. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience right now. I'm just walking through this earth.
All the
And
guys
so
I mentioned, look them up. Asimov, Joseph Campbell, all those guys.
Spinoza.
Sigmund Freud.
Spinoza's the guy.
Sigmund
yeah.
Freud.
Yeah.
So we're going to do all that homework and come back and have
So-
another show. I mean, this has got. There's a lot of content in this discussion that can still go on.
Yeah.
I hope you guys enjoyed the Monty Python reference for some of the posts that we put out there. But this is our show, 3 Minute Mike. It's your show. We hope it's everybody else's show,
Yeah.
and that they come back to it soon. So thank you again. for
Anytime.
coming.
Thank you, guys.
Keep the faith,
That's right.
That's right. There we go.
Or not.
or not.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.